Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on getting started with monday.com for construction users. My name is Lindsay. I am a customer experience specialist here at monday.com. And I'll be spending the next half hour or so with you on this webinar, walking through some helpful foundational knowledge for getting started on the platform. But it'll be extra special because we'll be focusing this basic walkthrough on our users in the construction field and how to get started in the best way to cater to your specific needs. So what will we cover? We're first going to start out with how to organize your work effectively on the platform. From there, we'll transition to how to build and structure a great board, how to add different column types from the many columns that we do offer in our column center to that board, specifically for tracking project progress and details. We'll talk a bit about communicating on the platform. And lastly, we will take a sneak peek into using the mobile app because we know that's really important for a lot of our construction users. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the monday.com platform and we'll dive right in. So when we first log into our monday.com account, we'll be taken to our inbox, a very useful feature that we'll get into a bit later when we talk more about communicating on the platform. But for now, let's go ahead and talk about organizing our work and ultimately building a board. So a board is going to be where it all happens on monday.com and the foundation that will drive other great features such as the inbox, which we're looking at now, a more advanced feature called dashboards for seeing data across multiple boards, and many other features on the platform. So that's why it's key to have a very solid board that's structured well and shows everything you need to see. So to get started creating a board, let's go ahead and click on this blue plus sign in our workspace to get started. So workspaces are a way to organize your account and designate a space for a specific department, team, or whatever works for you. So you can see here, I've got just a few departments on here as an example, or categories: design and creative, managers and executives, marketing. A few simple examples of what you can use workspaces for. For instance, in a construction management company, maybe I would have a workspace for my engineers and another for our contractors. Within the workspaces, we can have another layer of organization through folders. So if I go ahead and click on this blue plus sign I was talking about, you'll see I have a few options, one of them being new folder. I'm going to click on that. So in today's use case, I will be working from the point of view of a window installation company. We have many different teams who work on different homes across different developments for different developers. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder called clients. So I can just go ahead and type my title right there to organize the different boards for the clients or developers I'm working with now. And that's it. Now that we're organized, let's get to the fun of actually creating a board. So I'm going to hover over these three dots and I can actually create a board directly in the folder that I've just created. So if I click on create board and folder, you will see I have the option to choose from a variety of amazing pre-made templates to give me a leg up on my work. We have some especially helpful construction templates to check out in the construction section here. One of them even building out a folder of 3 templates to use on one big project, and in addition, some single templates as well. Since today's session is about getting familiar with the platform, we're actually going to go ahead and start from scratch to see how it all comes together. But once you have mastered this, templates will be a fast track to board building success and a very useful tool. So I'm going to go ahead back up to build your own and just start from scratch here. So I'm going to click on use. And you will see that now I have another pop-up. And there are 3 options for the type of board to create. So a main board is a board that everyone on the account can access and view if needed. A private board is a board with more private information, maybe confidential, that only those who are actually subscribed to it can see. Not everyone on the account, only specified users. And lastly, we have shareable boards that are able to be shared with external guests that might be working on one specific project with us. So shareable boards might be great, for instance, for subcontractors who aren't involved in all of our projects, but need to collaborate with us on one specific project and share their contributions. For this use case, I'm going to go with a main board because everyone I'm working with is internal, and I want to make sure the work I'm doing is visible to everyone, my team, my manager, etc. So now that I've got my folder that is named clients, I'm going to build a board for one specific client. And that is a developer called the LVM group. So I'm going to go ahead and create a board and we'll be off and running. So starting from scratch, we'll actually pre-populate a minimal amount of information for us to transform into a board fitting for our specific needs. So it's important to note that the beauty of monday.com is its flexibility. The structure of every board can be different based on what you need to see. So you can feel free to get creative and don't feel like you're locked into any specific structure because every board looks different. So I have started out by naming my board for the company we're working with or the developer. And then I'm going to actually add a board description as well. So to be sure everyone knows exactly what this board is tracking, I'm going to write that this board tracks the progress of window installation for LVM Group developments. We are currently working on. Please reach out to Lindsay at monday.com with any questions. So now anyone who comes to this board, stumbles upon this board and wants to take a look, knows exactly what we're working on. So I've got some contact information in my description. We could put some helpful links. Maybe I could put a link to the LVM Group's website, anything that's helpful for you and that you want to be right up front when any user first comes to this board. Now let's structure our groups. So groups let us categorize our boards and they can represent anything. If I wanted to break up the projects I'm working on into months of the year, I could name my groups January, February, etc. I could even do by color. I could do groups for pink, blue, and brown houses. Whatever is most important to you, whatever you need to see is what you can make that. Since we are working on multiple developments for this specific developer, I'm going to go ahead and have my groups represent a development. So we'll just do two for now that we're working on. So I'll do the homes at Fairview is one development. And the second being Mulberry Estates. The same exact concept goes for the items that you'll see here as well. They can represent a task, a person, or in my case, a house. So each item is going to represent a specific address within the development. So I can track the progress on each one and break down the details of each house. So just as an example, I'll change some of these to the houses that I'm working with. And I know these off of the top of my head, but you know, can pull these in if we need to. And I'll pause for just a second so I can populate the rest, but this is how you would go ahead and populate your items. Okay, so now I've got all of my items built out with the different homes within the developments. How will we now capture the details that actually contribute to the project of each house? We can do that within the columns. So a few of our basic columns are actually pre-populated on this template, and we can also add more by clicking on this plus button right here. When I click on this, it's actually going to initially show our 7 essential columns, so to speak, kind of most frequently used, most simply used, but opening our column center by clicking on more columns will open up a huge selection of very useful columns that I recommend exploring more, all with unique functionalities to build out your content. So I'm going to actually start out with what we have here, and then we'll build on that. So the first is a people column, which allows us to assign team members to an item and ensure clear visibility into who is responsible for which item. The cool thing about this is in addition to an individual person, so for instance, if only I was in charge of this, I could just assign myself one specific person. However, we can also assign full teams to an item. So I've actually created some teams under the teams section over here, so I can assign a bunch of users to one project quickly. So if I click on my avatar in the bottom left and I select the teams option, I've got a ton of teams here, but I've most importantly got teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 that I'm going to be working with today. And if you click on new, you can create your own team, but we're just going to work with these existing teams here. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my board and assign out some teams. So I've got team 1 working here, team 2, and we're just going to distribute out the work nice and evenly. You can assign it however you see fit for your project. And I've added photos of the numbers here to make it super visual of what team is working on it. I'll jump back over to the team section actually for a second, just to show you that you can click on this little camera button right here in order to upload that photo that I have there. And that makes it really visual. So I take one look at the board and I know exactly which teams are working on which project. So let's keep assigning these out. Great. And person is no longer relevant. So what I'm going to do to rename the column is just click on the title and you'll see an edit bar comes up. And we're just going to type in team instead of person. And now I know exactly what team is responsible for installing Windows at each home within each development. Next, we have our status column here to let us know where this project actually stands. So if I click into, you'll see some of these were pre-assigned. And if I click into the label here, our defaults are working on it, stuck, and done. We can actually customize these to anything and add more labels by clicking add or edit. So I'm going to click on add or edit labels. You'll see I've got a lot of cool colors, up to 30 of them. And I'm going to add one more label since I need that for my project. So I'm going to add this nice pink color. And I'm going to go ahead and say waiting for materials. And I can also drag and reorder these too. So I'm going to make that my second one and click apply. I also can change the colors if I want to. So if I click on this little raindrop shape here, I could change my working on it color to blue if I so please. So really customizable, and you can make that look however you want to, and then go ahead and hit apply, and you'll see that that has now turned blue for our selection. Next, I have a date column here, and you'll see it's just pre-populated some dates to kind of show you how that looks, but I can select any date from the calendar. So if I click into the dates, you'll see a calendar and a date picker is going to pop up here. For my purposes, I want this date to show when this project should actually be done and the house should have its Windows fully installed. So I'll click on today. Oh, didn't want to do that, sorry, but that takes me to November 2020. And maybe I want this house 22 Caleb Lane to be done on November 28th. So let's clear these out and we'll assign these some dates of when they should be done. This one's good until December. Be a little cold for those of us who are in New York. I'm in New York. Oh, we don't want to do Christmas. Okay. This one can go in November. And I'm just arbitrarily assigning some here, but can make that whatever you want to be. So now I've got my dates assigned. And this is all well and good, but this date is actually tied to an action. So it's not just, the date, just a generic date. It has an action tied to it, which means it needs to be done by this date. So I'm going to take the date column one step further and use the column drop down, which is this little arrow right here, to set it to deadline mode. So when I go ahead and click on set as deadline, you'll see that I have the option to tie this date column to a status column. And that'll visually show me whether the project got marked done by the due date. So if I go ahead and choose my status column, don't need to choose a person column if we don't want to, but you're welcome to. We're just going to stick to the status and the date here. And when I hit connect columns, you will see I get a very visual representation of what's been done. So the ones that are marked done are actually crossed out here and let us know that it was done on time. You'll see if I hover over this, it'll tell me exactly how many days I actually have left until the project is due. And this one is half filled because the date is actually upcoming. I'll put this date into the past just to give a visual. If something is overdue, I'll get a big red exclamation point. That's going to let me know that that actually was overdue. So the deadline mode ties an action to it. That said, most of us who work in construction know that hardly anything will get done in one day. You're going to need multiple days or even weeks to work on a project, which is the reality of it. So for that reason, a timeline column might actually be more fitting here than the date column that we've got set up. So I'm going to go ahead and click my plus sign, and I can scroll down, and right here I have a timeline. It's similar in that it allows me to select a date, but it allows me to select a range of days so that I can see how many days the project is actually going to take and what we're planning for in this project. So for this one, since it was due on the 28th, maybe we want to work on it for a week or so. We'll just go ahead and pre-populate some of these. It's a bigger one. And I'm just going ahead and I'm selecting my start date and then my end date, and it'll fill in that range here. And then this footer is going to show actually how long I'll be working on the entire development. So this is kind of a summary here that's telling me, so I'm starting in this development on November 21st and I'll be ending on December 29th. Let's fill in some of these as well. Just a few more. Great. So you'll see this one's in progress. So it's actually got a little bit of color filled in because it started in the past and it's upcoming. So now I've got my range of dates here, and I'm going to go ahead and actually get rid of this date column because we want a range of dates. So I can click this drop down and delete this column out entirely because my timeline is capturing that. And I'll go ahead and delete that. You'll see my deadline mode went away, but that's okay. Timeline has deadline mode too, and that'll be based off of the end date. So I'll go ahead and set as deadline, connect it to my status, and you'll see that visual representation comes back for my timeline column. So we're just going to add a few more columns to really power up the board. So let's start by clicking our plus sign again, and we'll add a numbers column. Numbers columns can be very helpful for tracking costs. So I'll add one here to show how much the materials cost for each project is going to be. So let's just type in some numbers here to talk about how much each is going to be for materials. But of course, we want to know what this represents. So we'll rename our column cost of materials. This just looks like a number here. It doesn't really look like a dollar sign. So what we want to do is click into this footer. This footer is super helpful because it's actually telling us the sum of the entire column. So I know how much I spent on materials for this entire development. If I click in here, I can also add a unit, and I want this to be dollars because it's a cost, but I can add anything that's here or even type in my own. I can also choose the function, but the sum fits pretty well here because I want to see how much we're working on for each development. Next, I'm going to add a location column, and that I'm actually going to have to explore the column center to get to. So we've got a lot here, but we've got a pretty handy search bar, and I'll just type in location. And I can go ahead and type in the location right here. And this will tell me exactly what it is. Cool. And so from there, what you can do is actually view this on our map view. We're not going to get into board views too deeply today, but just to show you, if you click on this main table dropdown, you'll see that we have a selection of board views. So different ways to view the data that's entered onto your board. And if I click on more views, it looks similar to our column center with all of the options. One of them being the map. So when I view locations from my board on a map, all of the location spots, which are represented by this little icon here, will be on a map so I can see exactly where my team is working at all times. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill all of these in. Okay. Back, and now I've got all of my locations entered in here. I do feel like the location column is pretty important here. So I'm actually going to drag it to the right and make that my first column, since I can reorder the columns really any way that I like. Lastly, let's add a file column. Hit more columns here and type in file. So very important for construction projects because getting a visual of the completed work is usually critical. So by adding a file column, I can actually attach as many files as I need to. So for this project, I'll have my teams upload photos of the window installments for each house right in the file column. So we'll start out with the ones that are actually done and click this plus sign. We have a few options for how you can upload them directly from your computer or from other from other softwares, I'm actually going to do it directly from my Google Drive. When I do this, all of my Google Drive is going to come up, and I can open my window projects folder where I've organized all of them, and open a photo of the window that I've installed. And you'll see when I click on this, it's going to open the photo to show me a visual representation of the work that I have done. You can upload multiple files if you'd like to. Let's go ahead and upload for our Wessex Place project. Open this. And maybe I did 2 in this house, so I can also go ahead and upload another. Very easily accessible. So I can come to this board, I can capture all of my information and even see the work that's been completed here. Just open up this one, and there it is. So there we have it. We have ourselves a very well-developed board. So how do we get to actually talking about all of these projects now that we've got our board structure in place? And that would be through the update section, accessible right here on this conversation bubble. This will open up a place to make comments, to upload files directly, to @mention users, or even full teams. So I can @mention team 2 since I know that they were working on this specific project. And it's really helpful to keep conversations central and specific to this project rather than sifting through long email chains to find the parts that are relevant to you. It's all in one place, and it will all populate in the inbox where we first started out. So we can sift through all the updates on the boards we're subscribed to or filter it down to where we're mentioned to stay on top of everything happening in our projects. So I'll show you that in just a second. But to start, I'll say team 2. Wow. Great work. The windows look great. And now team 2 knows that I'm talking about 66 Barton Road and that the windows that they've uploaded. And I can go ahead and click update. And when I do so, they will get a bell notification here, letting them know that they have been @mentioned. So you can see here, I mentioned my team, and Brett actually replied on the update saying thanks and @mentioned me as well, contributing to our conversation on the project. I've also gotten a bell notification, which I referenced earlier, and when I click on that, I can see that Brett replied to my update. If I go back to see all updates, I can see that as well. I can also see within this update that I've been @mentioned again, letting me know that the final inspection is happening tomorrow. I've received a notification about that as well, keeping everyone in the loop about the conversations that are happening. To go back to the inbox that I was just referencing, if I go ahead and click on the inbox, which we started out on, just give this a quick refresh. You will see that Brett's update also came up in my inbox, and all of the updates on the boards that I'm subscribed to will pop up here, letting me know. So I can read through this. I know within this developer's board, in this development, in this project, I know that Brett is returning for final inspection tomorrow. And once I've read that, I can click this blue check. And now I'm done reading all the updates of the boards that I am subscribed to. So that about covers our basic content, but I'd like to give you one more special look at an advanced feature, automations. So let's go back to our board just one last time. We won't get too much into these today, but I do just want to give you a little bit of an intro so you can explore these on your own or in further webinars. So this will take the manual aspect out of your work through our many different recipes to explore. So if I click on the automate option here, you'll see we have so many different options in lots of different categories. I'm just going to use a very basic one today, which is when a status changes to notify someone. So when a status, so I can click the status column on my board, changes to done, which means the project is completed. I can notify and I can put in a custom message and even map information from my board. So I'm going to say, great work on, and I'm going to use the item name so that that'll pre-populate the address that was worked on and just kind of send a motivational message to my team and say, this job is now complete and let them all know that they've done some great work. And how do we know who to send this to? I'm going to go ahead and actually choose whoever is assigned. So whatever project it is that's done, it'll assign that one. And the reason I am setting this up is just to give you a little intro and to also show you how this will actually look on the mobile app. So now that I've set up my automation to notify the team of a celebratory message when the project is complete, let's take that promised look at how this looks on the mobile app. So as many of our construction users know, you're usually working out in the field, out at a job site, and you're not necessarily near a computer where you can make changes. And you can't always wait to get back to a desktop or a browser because you want to make those changes in live time so that other people can have the information, get started on projects that they need, or what have you. So for that reason, the mobile app is very useful, and I'm going to show you quickly how the board looks on the mobile app, how the user can actually change the status, and how we can see our notifications, specifically the automation we just set up. So I'm going to show you a quick video. This is how our board looks on the mobile app. So I'm going to scroll over, and you'll see I'll change the status to done on 22 Caleb Lane and get a fun little animation. And now I have a notification showing me great work on 22 Caleb Lane. This job is now complete, as we originally set up in our automation. So just a quick look at how the mobile app looks, but I think it's going to be very useful to you on your projects and whatnot. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar. As you can see here, just jump to my next slide. We're always available to help. So you can go to monday.com/support for our knowledge base articles. We do have a lot of really great construction focused articles that I do recommend checking out, as well as some specific articles on automations and the mobile app, which I know we didn't dive into deeply, but a lot of resources there as well if you want to check out more about that. And lastly, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email us at support@monday.com. We are available to you 24/7, whether that's workflow questions or anything else you need, we are here for you. So I hope that this was very helpful. I hope you enjoyed and look forward to seeing you on monday.com soon.